Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to be cursed? To experience heartbreak after heartbreak with no hope in sight? Imagine a woman who has faced 7 failed marriages, each ending in tragedy. A woman who has lost everything and yet still holds on to hope. What if the key to her redemption lay in the hands of a young man she had never met, guided by a divine messenger sent straight from heaven? Today we're diving deep into the powerful and emotional story of Sarah, Tobias, Asmodeus, and the angel Raphael. A story filled with love, struggle, divine intervention, and triumph over evil. This tale from the Book of Tobit is one of the most inspiring stories of hope, faith, and the victory of good over evil. Before we jump into this incredible journey, don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so you won't miss more captivating stories like this. Now, let's begin. The heartbreaking tale of Sarah. In a time long ago in the city of Ecbatana lived a young woman named Sarah. She was known for her beauty, kindness, and grace. She was the daughter of Raguel and Edna, both of whom adored her dearly. Yet despite all her outward blessings, Sarah carried a heavy burden that no one could truly understand. Sarah had been married 7 times, but each marriage ended in a tragedy that shattered her heart. On each of her wedding nights, just when she thought she could finally begin a new life with a loving husband, disaster struck. Asmodeus, a powerful and evil demon, killed each of Sarah's husbands before the marriage could be consummated. The first husband died on their wedding night. So did the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, and finally the 7th. After each death, Sarah was left in mourning, her hopes dashed, and her soul broken. 7 wedding nights, 7 husbands, 7 tragedies. Can you imagine the suffering Sarah endured? The grief of losing a husband is already unbearable. But to experience it 7 times? It was a cruel curse, and Sarah felt as though there was no escape. Her parents, Raguel and Edna, wept for their daughter, who had been condemned to a life of sorrow and shame. Sarah herself prayed night and day, asking God to deliver her from this nightmare. She could not understand why this curse had fallen upon her, nor could anyone offer a solution. Her despair deepened with each passing day. One night after her 7th wedding had ended in tragedy, Sarah could no longer hold back her sorrow. She went into her room, fell to her knees, and cried out to God with all her heart. "O Lord, you are righteous. You know my heart and my sorrow. Why have you allowed this curse to fall upon me? Why must I suffer such a fate?" Her words were filled with anguish, and her prayer was one of the purest cries for help. Sarah asked God to take her life, saying, "I have had enough of this life. Please take me from this world, for I cannot bear the pain any longer." But God, in His mercy, heard Sarah's cry. Though her heart was broken, He had not forgotten her. He had already set in motion a plan that would bring an end to her suffering. God sent His angel Raphael, disguised as a human, to help Sarah and bring an end to her suffering. Raphael had been sent to Tobias, the son of Tobit, who lived in a distant city. Tobias had a mission of his own, to retrieve a sum of money that his father had left in a faraway land. Raphael, knowing that Tobias would be the one to free Sarah, guided him on his journey and arranged for their meeting. Raphael's first task was to heal Tobit, Tobias's father, who had been blind for many years. But while performing this task, Raphael also secretly orchestrated a divine union between Tobias and Sarah. As Tobias journeyed toward Ecbatana, Raphael told him that he would find a wife there, a woman named Sarah who was destined to be his. Tobias had no idea of the challenges they would face, nor did he know the history of Sarah's suffering. But Raphael, ever wise and full of grace, was ready to lead Tobias to Sarah and bring victory over the evil demon, Asmodeus. When Tobias arrived at the home of Raguel and Edna, he was welcomed with warmth, but Raguel's heart was heavy with fear. He had heard the tragic stories of Sarah's past marriages and feared that Tobias would meet the same fate as the previous husbands, death on their wedding night. Out of an overwhelming sense of dread, Raguel did something very unusual. He decided to dig a grave for Tobias, thinking that this would be the fate that awaited him. He believed that just like the others, Tobias would fall victim to the demon Asmodeus. Raguel did not want to face the reality of another tragic loss, but the shadow of Asmodeus was so heavy that even the possibility of hope seemed too far away. Raguel's actions, though extreme, showed the depth of the despair that had taken hold of Sarah's family. But little did he know, the fate that awaited Tobias and Sarah would be very different. When Tobias met Sarah, something incredible happened. The moment they laid eyes on each other, they felt a profound connection, a bond that neither of them could explain. They were drawn to each other as if by a force greater than themselves. Though Sarah had been burdened with sorrow and Tobias was unaware of her tragic past, they both sensed something divine at work. Tobias, a young man of great faith and integrity, asked Sarah to marry him. Sarah, despite her fears of the curse and the evil that had plagued her past, agreed to marry him. It was a moment of hope, and for the first time in her life, Sarah began to believe that perhaps this marriage would be different. The wedding ceremony was a moment of joy, a sacred occasion filled with prayer and blessing. Raguel and Edna, though burdened with fear, prayed for their daughter's happiness, and Tobias stood by Sarah with a heart full of faith and love. The bond between them grew stronger with each passing moment, and the promise of a new beginning filled their hearts. Before the wedding night began, Raphael gave Tobias specific instructions. He told him to burn the liver and heart of a fish that he had caught during the journey. The smoke from this offering, Raphael explained, would drive away Asmodeus, preventing him from causing any harm. Tobias, trusting in the angel's wisdom, followed his instructions without hesitation. On their wedding night, Sarah and Tobias entered their chamber, filled with both fear and faith. They prayed silently, asking God for protection. Asmodeus, furious that his curse was being challenged, appeared in the room, ready to destroy Tobias just as he had done with Sarah's previous husbands. But God's power, working through Raphael's guidance, was far greater than Asmodeus's evil. Tobias burned the fish's heart and liver, and as the smoke filled the room, Asmodeus' power began to wane. The demon tried to fight, but his strength was no match for the divine force at work. With a final desperate cry, Asmodeus fled into the darkness, never to return. Sarah and Tobias, for the first time in Sarah's life, were free from the curse that had plagued her. They were able to consummate their marriage, and joy filled their hearts. After the battle, Tobias and Sarah knelt together, offering their thanks to God. Tobias prayed, saying, "Lord, you have delivered us from the darkness. You have heard our cries and answered our prayers. We thank you, O Lord, for your mercy and your grace. May we live our lives in your service, forever grateful for your deliverance." Meanwhile, Tobit, who had been blind for many years, received a miracle of his own. With Raphael's help, Tobias returned home and healed his father's blindness. When Tobit saw his son, he praised God with all his heart, saying, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Israel, for he has restored my sight and given me cause to rejoice. I thank you, Lord, for your mercy, for you have delivered my family from the darkness and brought us peace." The story of Sarah, Tobias, and Raphael is a powerful reminder that no matter how dark our past may be, there is always hope in God's plan. Through faith, prayer, and divine intervention, we can overcome even the greatest of trials. Sarah, once broken and sorrowful, was restored to joy through the mercy of God. Tobias, a man of unwavering faith, stood by her side, and together they overcame the darkness that had plagued her life. Their story teaches us that no matter how dark our past may be, there is always hope in God's plan. Through faith, prayer, and the help of divine intervention, we can overcome even the greatest of trials. Before we end, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you can hear more powerful stories like this. Thank you for watching, and may your faith always lead you toward victory, just as it did for Sarah and Tobias.